Hi, welcome back to Movie Review Mom. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews. And today the movie I'm reviewing is called Black Widow. After its premiere was pushed back multiple times due to the pandemic, this new Marvel film edition is now available in theaters and on Disney Plus. It's rated PG-13 and it's 2 hours and 13 minutes long. That's a pretty long movie, but not unusual for Marvel. Let me give you the scoop in a nutshell. I'll point out things I liked and didn't like. I'll offer tips for parents and point out some themes worth talking about, and even give you recommendations for other movies I think you'll also really enjoy. Now, the tricky part about doing a movie review of a Marvel movie is everybody has a very strong opinion because it's Marvel. And I'm not even a Marvel comic book fan. It's an interesting backstory mixed with spy capers, a dysfunctional family comedy, and some hard hitting action, with, of course, a little Marvel magic. The superhero action flick is directed by a woman, Kate Shortland. So is the long list of the things that I really liked about this movie. First of all, I'm so happy for Scarlett Johansson for finally getting her own feature film and a backstory movie for her character of the MCU. This movie fleshes out her character a lot with an interesting backstory that makes for an entertaining and touching solo Avenger movie. Unfortunately, this will probably be her last one since her character has already died in the MCU in that story arc. However, if fans are excited about it, they could go back even further. You never know. It's Marvel and it is a great cash cow. Florence Pugh is absolutely stellar in this movie as Scarlett Johansson's sister that we never even knew she had. She has been putting out some great work in recent years and has an incredibly bright future as well as with the MCU, I suspect. She has the athleticism, beauty, and fierceness to be an excellent Yelena. I'm such a fan, not only of the character, but of course of her, the actress. The subtleties in her facial expressions and her Russian accent made her the true standout, I thought, for acting in this movie. She's also the one who has the most connected relationships with all of the other characters in the story, and she really brings heart to the movie. Her character has a full arc demonstrating her toughness and vulnerability. She should definitely be added to the MCU, and I suspect we're going to see her again. And I think everybody, all the critics, all of the fans who've watched this movie would agree she was unbelievable and a true highlight of this movie. David Harbour is absolutely fantastic in this movie and also one of the highlights of this movie. I love his endearing obsession with Captain America. I get it. I have one too. One of my favorite scenes of his is when he's in a room having a heart to heart with Yelena, Florence Pugh's character. It's so touching. And again, zero in on Florence Pugh's face because it's so good. There are quite a few action sequences and entertaining moments that I can't wait to see again already. And that is one of the big marks of a great movie in my book, is when as soon as I finish watching the movie, I can't wait to watch it again. And that's definitely true with this movie. One question I have is, when is Rachel Weisz going to start aging? I thought she just looked great, especially in the first few scenes as a young mother. I know there's CGI involved, but even in later scenes, I mean, what a great figure she's got. She still looks young, has great energy, and is a great actress. There's a really great cat fight scene between the sisters, but the Taskmaster character and those fight sequences were really electric. Taskmaster's presence instantly darkened the tone and made it feel like a superhero movie with a solid villain. So kudos to the stunt team because the sequences hit hard. It's not just like, a little Avenger girl. She is an Avenger with some serious power. The opening credits are striking and kind of different for a Marvel movie. In fact, I just got off a Zoom conference with someone who just watched the movie and I said, "What did you think?" And that's the first thing she said was just watching those opening credits brought her to tears. And it really adds some heft to the whole message of these Black Widow characters, which is the heart of this movie as well. And anyway, I was very impressed that they chose to not make it really comic booky, but to make it seem like a real world problem because it is. And in fact, as an author, I support a wonderful cause called the Underground Railroad every year, where they have authors who participate in the program on July 31st donate proceeds to this Underground Railroad every year on July 31st. So watch out for that because I am so impassioned by that particular topic. Anyway, back to the Avengers. I thought that the Avengers posing conversation between the sisters was pretty funny. And I loved how they kind of peppered several scenes with those moments. And I liked that running thread. It was just cute and fun. There are some sweet firefly moments that they're so magical. The comedic banter works most of the time throughout the movie, and you expect that nowadays in Marvel. There are a few Easter eggs for true Marvel fans as well. So Marvel fans should be happy about that. And some critics have pointed out that Natasha spends Act One hiding and that they didn't like that. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that that was appropriate since Black Widow spiders actually do that. They hide. And then when the prey is in sight, they pounce and kill. So I don't know if that was just lucky or if that was truly intentional, but I liked it. There are so many Russian braids in the movie, which I actually liked a lot. That gave it a more of a Russian flair, and I wanted more Russian flair to the movie. It has the elements of a spy movie with some double crosses and alliances, making film critics often call this Marvel edition kind of a James Bond Marvel combination movie. And as with all Marvel movies, keep watching after the final rolling credits for another clip, a fun cameo, and an intriguing teaser. So you can tell by that long list, there were a lot of things I really liked about the movie. However, there were a few things that could have been done better. So some of the things I didn't like were, first of all, there's a lot of quiet talking moments. Some of them are very touching, but because of them, Act Three feels rushed. And I think if they had maybe cut a little bit of that at the beginning, we could have had more time to explore later on. Now, I understand it's a difficult balance because through these long talking conversations, we get to know the characters. And that's really important so that we care whether they live or die, right? However, I talked with my 21-year-old son and some of his friends and said, "What'd you think?" And he's like, "Oh, it was boring. We wanted more action." So again, it's a very delicate line to balance. The CGI and stunt doubles are often very noticeable in this movie, which surprised me because this is Marvel. They've got this perfected, at least I thought. And so I was shocked. Then again, COVID, right? I mean, during the pandemic, a lot of the studios have had people working on these projects at home, perhaps not under the most ideal working situations. So I will forgive them, but I did notice it. It's also really sad that there wasn't a Stan Lee moment in this Marvel movie. And of course, there won't be any more unless they come up with some really cool new CGI or something. But it was definitely noticeable because I always look forward to those moments in other Marvel movies. It takes about 40 minutes to set up the actual plot. I understand we've got some character development and backstory to get into, but there's no big action for 40 minutes. That's a long time to wait for Marvel. Now, I take that back. I mean, there is a little bit of stuff at the beginning, but then it definitely slows down. There are several times when you're going to laugh out loud and say, come on, when certain people miraculously survive ridiculously deadly moments where you're like, she's not a superhero. How did she survive that? I mean, she's human, she's a spy. Whereas the superheroes, you're like, okay, you can suspend your disbelief because they're superheroes, whatever. And then the actual villain doesn't show up for a very long time, really act 3. And unfortunately, he's disappointingly bland. So that is disappointing. Okay, now let me give you some tips for parents because some of your kids are really going to want to watch this movie. There is some profanity, but no F-bombs. Yay. There's gross conversation about a forced hysterectomy. And it's actually important to really graphically demonstrate how brutal it is to be one of these widows and all that they underwent to become one. There's lots of destruction as expected in a Marvel movie. There's violence, but with only a tiny bit of blood, even though the violence is pretty brutal. There are some subtitles when Russian is spoken, but not always. So some positive themes that are illustrated well are family, revenge, female empowerment, of course, control, power, mental strength, as well as moral strength, choice, and sisterhood. So I always write down funny lines and interesting lines whenever I watch movies, just to give you a taste of the style or the flavor of the movie. And I have them all written on my written review at moviereviewmom.com. So you can check them out there, but I'll just give you a couple of them right now. One of the funny lines that I wrote down was Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh. And she's just got this fun, dry sense of humor. And so somebody's doing something to her and she says, this is a much less cool way to die. Well, that was a terrible Russian accent. Sorry. But anyway, I thought the line was funny. And then she also has some very poignant lines. One of the things that she says is, the truth rarely makes sense when you omit details. And she's mad at Scarlett Johansson, the Black Widow, for not telling her everything that she wished she would have known. And then another theme that is very strong throughout the whole movie is a line that Rachel Weisz's character teaches her daughters. Her name is Melina, and she tells them when they're very young, pain only makes us stronger. And it's illustrated many times in the movie and repeated many times in the movie. All right, that's it for what I'll share with you right now, just because I don't want this to be a 20-minute video. But you want to know what movie review mom grade I'm giving this? A B+. I actually really enjoyed it. Now, I have seen scores much lower from other film critics, but I thought for what it was, they did a very good job and I really enjoyed it. And again, I was just so grateful that we finally have this story. So before we go, let me give you some recommendations for other movies that I think you'll also enjoy, especially if you're into female empowerment spy movies, especially based in Russia. The first one is Salt with Angelina Jolie. And I watched that a couple of times again because I thought it was so good. Another one is Atomic Blonde. Now, those are both rated R, so they are much more brutal with a lot more language and blood. So just a heads up, not necessarily ones that you're going to watch with your kids. All right, if you watch this, I hope you enjoy it, and I will catch you in the next movie review. Bye for now.